Overlook up at the Millstone Trails. It's an incredible place. If you've never been there, it's certainly worth the trip. So I want to talk about a couple of things before I start. And that is like when you spray your artwork. There were a couple of people that had, I think, that had spray issues. One problem is the cans do get old, so you have to be careful. And you need to shake it really well before you spray it. And if you're outside and it's really cold, then you can't count on your fixative working, or if you like leave it in the car and then come back to get it, it might do this horrible thing where it squirts big drops of junk on it. And then the other thing is when you go to spray, you need to be sure that you're going to work on the whole thing again. Because if you don't work on the whole thing again, some places will have this darkness to them that is not so great. So, and then the last thing I wanted to mention is, yeah, sometimes you do end up sort of working on it so long that you've used up all the paper. But then another thing you can do is you can use a sort of a crappy brush and kind of wipe it off. So yeah, so I just want to make sure I mention those things and didn't forget them. Also, you can use a single edge razor blade and you can just hold it absolutely perpendicular to your paper and you can scrape stuff off. I don't think you could do that on this kind of paper, but on Canson paper, you can really do pretty major surgery with a razor blade. Also, I did want to thank you guys, all of you guys that commented on Emily's post. That made me feel really good, so thank you. So yeah, this is seriously confusing. So that's one, here's two. Here's little hump three. Yeah, that's really great, Jeneane. You really not get that. Just saying, it's not really drawn right, but it's not perfect. The thing about drawing is sometimes it's like you just sort of say, well, never mind, who cares? Which is what I'm saying right now. Who cares? Never mind. Because of course I do usually spend quite a bit of time on my drawing, and if I were to do that right now, it would, you know, take the whole time. So, but yeah, it's like you're gonna pay later if you don't have a decent drawing in the beginning. But also, you know, so if you're really outside, you might just not want to have to take the kind of time it takes to do a decent drawing. But and the way to know is if you feel really confused, then probably you should draw more next time before you start painting. I'm going to put that one little dark tree right there, just to kind of a placeholder because I'm getting really confused. And then I'm going to put these little dark trees there. And then there's these little dark guys right here. Okay, so let's just say that's a great drawing. And so usually what I like to do is start with the sky, but I think in this case, because these trees are so brilliant, I think I'm going to start with that. I want to be sure that nothing interferes with my ability to do this. So one thing also is that the yellows, if you have Rembrandts, the yellows are kind of cold, kind of cool colored. And so, I mean, I hate to make rules, but you know, there are some things that work better than others. So when you're going to use yellow, it really does help to use orange or something underneath it. And we talked about this before, that in the autumn, one thing that's kind of difficult is trying to create large masses because there's so many individual trees. It's not like just a big thing of green, thank goodness. Oh my gosh, you guys could come down here and do a landscape class because the leaves have not really turned here yet. People tell me it's going to be incredible. And I switched over to the gray paper tonight because I realized that I prefer the gray for autumn colors. It's sort of, it's weird, but it's hard to make things even redder on the red paper or even, you know, more autumny. So, and I've been, what am I trying to say? Yes, that I posted some stuff on Facebook finally after a while, couple of weeks, just hadn't, you know, gotten around to it. And I'm just putting these guys back into, this is just, like I say, my placeholder, even though this is kind of right in the dead center. Yeah, and it was really amazing. The thing that people liked the best was the one I just was in complete dark and horrible despair at the end of that day. So because it was just so hard. It was this waterfall thing I'd done. And it was like impossible. And that was the painting I mentioned last week. I think that I used so much black because I don't know, I just couldn't get it. And then it was interesting because people seem to really like it. So the moral of that story is never tell people how much you hate what you did, just kind of, you know, let it go and let them come up with their own feelings about it. And also don't ever throw anything away on the day that you paint it. Always wait. I'm sure part of it is, you know, I'm standing out there and it's, and I am comparing it to the real thing and I just couldn't get it. So, but then later I'm not there comparing it to the real thing. So, and nobody else, this is great. Nobody else ever sees anything I paint because I'm so far away.
What color is that red?
It's a sort of a burnt sienna, which is a brown, really. I don't know if you can see it here. It's not, I mean, it's a red, it's a reddish brown.
Okay, I don't know if I have that.
This is what I'm liking about just broadcasting straight out of open broadcast source instead of going through Zoom. Is this, the colors here are much more accurate now compared to what I see when I'm painting. So I'm very happy that I just discovered this kind of on accident. So.
Oh.
So instead of having Zoom turn broad, you know, not just screen sharing, but using this, oh shoot, that wasn't what I thought it was. Oh well, try again. It's like, usually what I do is I'm in Zoom and I turn on this specific camera. And yeah, but this time I'm just screen sharing from this camera. I just think it's so much better. Okay, gotten stuck here in the valley. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, I don't know what I'm gonna do up here. It's barely two different levels, so I'm gonna make it two different levels, and I'm gonna start it way off base. So. And you know, why is she starting it so wrong? She doesn't know. I don't know. I just decided to do that. But I guess one thing is, you know, you can always pull it back. It's much easier psychologically, I think, to pull something back than it is to, I didn't draw this right, so now I'm trying to make it better. It's much easier to pull something back than to jazz it up. And even things like values, if you get your values, like your lights and darks are not different enough, when you go to make your lights and darks more different, it's really difficult you get used to the way it is, And so sometimes you have to go really radical to be able to make the kinds of changes that sometimes you have to make. And then I've really literally seriously have found that sometimes you just have to walk away. You make a change and then you walk away, and then hopefully by the time you come back, you feel like, oh, that's okay. You guys, a lot of you did that demonstration. You did the same one I did last week. Man, you guys did a great job.
Is that something we're supposed to be doing, Jeneane? We're supposed
you
to
don't
be
have-
doing something based on what?
No, this was a new idea. Nobody's ever done this before, but some of our new people have been painting from the demonstration. Like, I think some people are probably painting along with me right now. So
I'm trying.
yeah, I can't see you, so you can do whatever you want.
Oh my God, you can't tell me this is gonna work out.
What? Of course it's going to. I guess it all depends on what you mean by workout. You know, it's not like, I don't know, like I love to say, it's not bungee cord jumping.
It's not world peace.
Your life is not in danger here, probably.
What's the light? Is that a light blue that you're using?
Right now. It's not
No,
that light.
that you were.
It was
that
violet. It was violet. It's a very light, it's almost a pink, I guess. It was too light. I got wimpy. I'm just gonna come back and mix it. Oh, but you know what I really need to do? So before I do anything else, I really need to do something about this, because this is so wrong and it's not going to stay like that. And so I can't really make a lot of judgments about this until I fix this or make that better. So I'm going to just see what I can do now. Also, the other good thing about starting way wacko is that it's sort of easier to, almost anything you do after that is going to be, you know, better. So sometimes if you start too accurately, it's kind of hard.
That has not been my experience, Jeneane.
Wait, what has not been your experience?
No.
That starting wacko doesn't help you.
It doesn't seem, it seems to sort of guarantee wacko results.
Well, you know, wacko results are better than boring.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I do believe you.
Yeah, I know you
Because
do.
you're the teacher.
Because to not believe me is folly. All right, this is not right either, but. You know, so like I have said before, I mean, the reason I'm sort of ripping along like this is I don't really think very much. I just kind of grab things and see how it goes. But thinking just doesn't work that well for me. I just need to see what's going on. And then really this was more of a, I don't know.
This is not my best day.
Well, is that you, Emily?
Yes,
Oh, hi. I didn't see you before.
I had to call Grace to figure out how to get back to the link, but that's all right.
No, because I shut it down and started again because nobody can hear me.
Somehow I lost it.
You lost
It's
it?
okay.
Okay. All right, you're right. Okay, so now I've got it laid in the first time. And now what I want to do is see if I can make it better. And like probably right now the colors are so wrong basically that I need to not break it down anymore. I need to keep it kind of in the same amount of difference. I mean, I have a lot of different things going on, but you have to be careful I know there's a tendency to think that if I make more details, it will look better. That's how I'm gonna save myself. Like, it's not going well, but if I make more details, then it will be better. But that just usually isn't the case. That what you want to do is get the big, okay, that's still, I'm pushing my easel away. Yeah, so don't break it down until the only way you can make it better is by breaking it down. Another problem I think with the Rembrandt greens is they tend to be kind of blue, except for the olive. So that's sort of the only green. That was too light.
Jeneane, you said don't necessarily add details to make it better, but then what is your next step then? Instead of adding details, you're just continuing to change the colors?
Yeah, I'm trying to make the area better instead of saying, oh, well, I mean, I might, it's especially easier like if you're doing something like still life, where it's not so complicated, but I'm trying to, so instead of adding more to something that isn't working, instead of breaking, well, I don't know how to explain it. It's like, don't break it down until the only way to make it better is by breaking it down more. So to say, well, this is terrible, but maybe if I add more detail, then it will be okay. I don't know. See, I still feel like I'm not making, it would be a lot easier if I was showing you on a still life, honestly. I don't know. Does it make any sense? Did that make any sense, Stevie?
Well,
Well, it looks like you're adding a little bit of variation,
Well,
but not like, not the detail of the particular branches or anything like that. Just the variation in color is a form of detail, right?
yeah, it definitely is. And because, see, if this is so complicated that I'm just barely breaking it down from what it was. So even though, yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't think of how to say it better. If people keep asking me questions, so I might get it better. Maybe. These are not the.
is
What?
it better to move from you're moving from the foreground back?
Well, I was moving from the worst thing, sort of. But the last time over, I always go from the background forward because I want there to I want the things that are in the foreground to literally be on the background.
Right.
Wait, the things that are in the foreground to literally be on top of the things that are in the background. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I used to pick my pastels up a lot more, and now I just have more of a tendency to, I don't know, like even here, it's like, no, it doesn't continue those dark spots, but I don't know, I kind of keep kind of running the colors along so that there's a real sense of unity, hopefully, in what I'm doing. Yeah. Maybe I'm a little too wild here. Yeah, so here's like a big mistake. That's way brighter than this one, and it's further back. So I'm just gonna knock that back too. Like really, pretty much nothing will save you if you don't have a good composition. That's the main thing. You have to be sure you have a good composition, good color. You know, beautiful colors can save you from being a great drawer. But if you don't have very good color, then you probably should be a good drawer. But the great thing about Impressionism is you're relying more on the color than the drawing. And details generally, I don't think save you. But what you're doing, like if you think about details more like I'm doing smaller increments of what I started with. So I started a certain way with big blocks. And now I am breaking it down into, sorry, it's so complicated. Breaking it down into smaller changes, but I'm not really I'm not fussing particularly with it. So when I get to the stage where I would be doing details, what I'm really doing, I'm just doing more of the same thing. I'm just breaking it down into smaller and smaller sections. My teacher used to always say that he was absent on the day they taught how to do details. Yeah, I don't think I was absent too, because he refused to teach that. Oh my God, or eyelashes. I used to ask my teachers, well, how do you do eyelashes? And then she would always say, you know, well, I was absent on the day they taught that. So I still don't know. Okay, I've got to do some stuff back here. So these are really dark here. And I made that too far gone.
I'm just going to say, speaking of eyelashes, I saw a young couple in a little tiny car today that had big eyelashes over the headlights.
Yeah, that's a
You know,
Fiat.
I'd never seen those before.
I think it must have been a little Fiat. They had those.
Or probably it was almost as if it was a plastic set that was taped on, because they were, you know, three-dimensional. It was kind of fun. I thought, if I was that age, I might be doing the same thing.
Very funny. All righty, so now I just gotta, the mountains are probably too purple. So I tried to add some blue to them, but I wasn't very happy with it, so. I think I don't usually go this direction, like right now, I think I usually go like this, because like when I'm going this way, I can't really see what I'm doing until I get kind of far across. So I think as a right-handed person, I usually work left to right. It's just something about the way this is set up here. So funny out of, you know, over to the side and all. Okay, so.
May I ask a question about the background mountains?
Oh, yeah,
I'm always fascinated that you lay down such bold colors and then bring them back. Is there a reason that, I mean, would it have been just as effective if you had started with the more muted color for that back ridge?
Well, I guess the thing is, I don't think so, or I would have done it that way. So, so what I think it's just that thing that I was saying about, maybe I didn't make it clear, but what I was saying about how it's easier to tone things down than to jazz them up later. So I'm trying to, you know, push it to start with, and then finishing paintings, even though I just said there's no such thing, finishing paintings weaken them so much, because yeah, just weakens them, because you know those initial things that you do have so much strength and all, and then you keep working on them, and I just feel like if you don't have a start that has a lot of strength in it, then yeah, it's hard to keep that as you add more details. And the thing that makes me think that, the place I learned that from was a really long time ago, like a really long time ago, when a friend of mine was an editor at American Artists. I had an article in that magazine, And it was like the first time I'd ever taken taken those like sequential painting photographs of my paintings, because that's, you know, what they wanted for the magazine. And so everybody that saw it thought that they'd reverse slides 4 and 5, but they hadn't. And I also realized that I had worked on it too long. You know, I'd kind of taken some of the liveliness out of it. And that gave me this idea that, yeah, the paintings get weaker the longer you work on them, if you're not really careful. So, and the other thing for me is I always feel it's better to make, exaggerate than minimalize. So I personally would always rather exaggerate. And that is a personal choice, not, you know, it's not like it's not, I guess it's my aesthetic, but it's not an aesthetic that anyone else has to share. Like I just, yeah, I don't know, trying to teach what's worked well for me. Because you know, I really do not want to be boring. And there's a lot of really boring paintings out there.
Jeneane, I have a question. You know, because, you know, as I'm sitting here through classes, definitely people have, you know, different styles. Like, did it take you a while to get to your like style of, you know, painting, or, you know, like like when I'm doing it, I'm getting, you know, too thick into the details and stuff. And I mean, you definitely have a different style. So I was just wondering, you know,
Yeah, no, it's taking me.
where does that, you know, where does that come? I mean, you know, because I mean, you have a beautiful style, you know, I love all the colors, and I just love, you know, what you do. So I was just, yeah, I was wondering, how does that come?
Well, you know, you don't know, but I got my first set of pastels when I was 16. And
Yeah.
so, and I had these 2 really great teachers in Oklahoma City, this married couple. And, you know, so I started with them when I was maybe 15 in oils. And the deal was that you couldn't do pastels until you were good enough at oils. They considered pastels harder. Personally, I think it's way harder. So I used to, when I first started teaching, everybody did oils, but now I mean, since about the first 6 months of teaching, now I start people with pastels, and if they want to switch to oils later, I think, anyway, but that's another story. So then when I went to New York to study, I studied with David LaFell, Thomas Fogarty, Gustav Rehberger. Probably, I studied printmaking and stuff, but that doesn't really count. Oh, and then another person who had a tremendous influence on me was Knox Martin, and he was an abstract expressionist, so that was totally different. Like, that was really wacko. But in the end, I pretty much came back to those first teachers, to the impressionist thing. So, and I would say my style is still developing. It's not like it's, you know, that's what I love about painting, is that there's sort of no end in sight. If you keep, you know, I mean, you could decide to not keep pushing it, you know, like you see a lot of times people get really good at one thing and then they paint that on and on and on because that's what everyone knows before. And there's a lot of pressure to not change your subject matter from your, but anyway, my style has just, and so it's what I always say is practice and study. So I've also looked at a lot of people's work, and and Wolf Kahn is somebody, I only studied with him a little bit, but he certainly was a big influence on me. So I don't know if that it's just like, I think there was these 2 things, like all artists start out tight. That's just the deal. You just do. You know, if you look at the early Degas and stuff, they are so tight. And then you look at his later work and see how loose it is. So
Mhm.
worrying about being too tight is kind of you don't need to worry about that. And then the other one is worrying that you have something to say or that you'll have your own style. And you don't really need to worry about that either, because you will. It just, takes some time. And it's really good to experiment right now, which I can't even find. I don't know what I did with it. I will include in the email the names of things when I
Okay.
send out the, let's see, which way was that? No, not that way. There we go. Yeah, I'm out of the fixative I really like. This fixative, it's like it doesn't create the kind of hard surface that I like, that I can work over easy. The thing about fixative is it's not like you use it if you like it, and you don't use it if you don't like it. But I like it for the way I work. It means that I can be pretty reckless and still, then spray it and work on stuff again. So what I'm going to do kind of quickly here is I just want to redraw a little bit. I hadn't even realized these were on such an angle. So see, it's like I can tell that it's not, that the surface isn't what I really like. And it's been about to drive me crazy, but nobody here, I couldn't buy it. So I did order. Oh, look at that. So bad, Jeneane. So sometimes like this, I'm drawing in, I just want to darken that right there just to remind myself. And this is that, and then this comes over a little more. And I think I'm gonna leave this one out because, oh my God, the cat is in here. Wait. Yeah, I'm gonna leave out that fourth little field thing because, yeah, four things is always more of a, three things, I don't know, odd numbered things are sort of better. So I'm just gonna stick with an odd number. And I
What
just,
about plants too?
oh yeah, when you're in landscaping.
Yeah,
In the
but
gardens.
do three at least. Don't ever do one or two.
Okay, so, all right, holy cow, now what? All right, so I guess what I'm gonna do, what I always think after I spray it, because it does darken it, although this brand, this is Sennelier fixative, doesn't darken it kind of as much. So I wonder, start. I was gonna start on the sky, but then I feel like these aren't really, I kind of love the way they look, but they're not really right. And so then, or it's like, I don't want to make the sky darker to make this okay. I need to lighten these so I can keep the sky light. So I'm gonna just see what happens. So what I used this color before back here. And what I did just now, I tried something a little different. Instead of just spraying it one time, I sprayed it and let it dry, and I sprayed it again, and that seems to be actually a little better. So I used this color back here before. I just made it too light, just saying. But that's how much it darkened it. How much it darkened it, the spray.
Wow. So
it's kind of good. It kind of like, okay, great. This is, didn't I say try to make it better, not worse? Something is not working. Okay, so, okay. I wish I hadn't done anything to it. But you can also, maybe you can see how it's filling in. Like it's filling in so fast. Like this is the airy kind of thing I like, where you see through it. And this just looks solid now, and also really the wrong color. Oh, why did I?
Is that because of the fixative?
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeneane,
What?
if you didn't like what you just did on that back mountain, with the fixative on there, can you brush it off the way you can when it's original?
Yes. Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking for my paintbrush. I just did this to show you guys. Oh, I'm afraid I actually accidentally used my paintbrush to paint with today. No wonder it was so terrible. Okay, so like you can take a crappy paintbrush and you can just knock off things you don't like. Can't get it all the way down. This is better in a way than, maybe just need to be more assertive. This is better than rubbing it because that just sort of rubs it all in more. This is actually knocking it off. And I don't think I ever talked about this, like I'm working vertically. I'm not just working vertically because I'm filming, I always work vertically. And well, except for last week, one day when I forgot my easel.
You mean the paper is vertical, right, on an
Yeah.
easel? You don't just mean the up and down motion, right?
Oh, no, right, thank you. God, you're good. Yeah, I always have it on an easel because for one thing, that way the pastel dust just falls, it falls. It's not just, you know, stuck on the paper. But I will say that, like, for instance, that guy Wolf Kahn, he worked flat. So, okay, I'm just leaving those mountains alone now. I'm gonna lighten up this guy some more. Also, I probably should admit that sometimes I do feel like especially if I'm doing a demonstration that I just started almost too wild, you know, it's like it's so out of control because I can't focus as much as I can when I'm, you know, got my mouth shut. So surprisingly, yeah, so like a lot of times people ask me, do I finish? And I don't, because the start wasn't, in my opinion, strong enough to finish. So that's also part of what I was saying about the start and finish and all that, is that the better you can start, the better you can finish. And also, I always can tell that I think my paintings, I mean, this sounds contradictory, but it's something about it. It's just there's not the kind of focus. I don't have the kind of focus when I'm talking that I do, I think, when I'm by myself. For better
That
or
makes
worse.
sense. Called multitasking.
That what?
It's called multitasking.
Yeah,
Always hard.
it is different size of your brain, but still. Yeah, like it's so, and then the other thing I was talking about before is how hard, I mean, how easy it is to get something that's too repetitive. So I try not to worry about it too much right when it's happening. And then I go back and I look and I try to see what could I do to, you know, to make that not be repetitive. But to think about everything at the same time, repetitiveness and is a lot also, I think. And then I'm not doing a very good job of this either. It's not a very big sky, it's pretty close, but I can tell it's lighter back there than it is closer to me, which is up here. Closest part of the sky to you is the part up there. So I need to, even my darks down here are a little lighter. So just like in the landscape, when you're trying to create a sense of distance, you're going to have the strongest colors closest to you and the most contrasting colors closest to you. And then as things, and the biggest things are closest to you. And then as things get further away, they get smaller and they get more neutral, and darks appear lighter and lights appear darker. So things get more averaged.
Say that again.
Well,
The whole thing.
Okay, I'm gonna try to say it again. It's hard to say, it's harder to hear. Okay, so when, like, if you think about one of the most important things in landscape is to try to create distance, because the distances are so extreme. So so what happens, like, you know, like here we can see almost, I can't quite see leaves, but I can see clumps of leaves. Here, as we go back, I can see trees. Back here, I can kind of not really see trees, but I can see clumps of trees. And back here, I really can't see anything. So, so you have the most detail in the foreground, Yeah, the richest colors, even if there are trees like this back here, they won't be as rich as these. And the strongest darks and the strongest lights are going to be in your foreground. And so that things get more average back here. So the lights get a little darker and the darks get a little lighter. And yeah, and you can, and one of the things that really allows you to see detail is I'm out here making air quotes, even though no one can see me. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, so I'll use something else. Yeah, okay, did I finish that sentence before I?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So it's the same thing in the sky. Like, I think I know I used to have kind of a tendency to see the sky as a flat sheet kind of behind the foreground. And it's not, it's a bowl that's going away. And so this is the furthest away parts and this is the closest parts. So, yeah.
I don't understand that. Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, this is not a straight line.
Right.
In the same way the landscape is going from here to here, the
Yeah.
sky is coming from up here somewhere to out there. So this is the furthest away part in the sky right here.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
okay.
I mean, I had, it was something that didn't occur to me. I mean, one day it occurred to me or somebody told me. But then on the other hand, sometimes it's nice to have it really sort of a strong thing here on the edge. And maybe part of that is just that when it's right next to that dark, it just looks lighter.
Yep.
Okay. So also the next, as I go, each time I go over it, and I would say I almost always spray at least 2 times. So, and probably a lot of times I spray 3 times. But each time as I go over it, I spend more time in each area than I did the first time. So I do slow down, which is why I used to think it was kind of silly to try to do a second part of the demo because it does slow down. So here I was just trying to see if I could put something up like more of the purple up there so that it would come forward, and then I'm actually using gray right now. I'm not, I mean, I have spent a lot of time telling people not to use gray, but I do think you can as long as it's not the first thing you use. All right, so anyways, guys. Okay, so now I'm just get back to my land situation. Okay, so I don't even know why I jumped down here from there. I think also another thing I usually do is because I started here first and then I worked on everything. I think I have a feeling maybe that's the worst part, possibly not true, but I tend to come back and work on this part kind of in the order I did things. Now, a lot of times I start with the sky, then I explained, I think, why I didn't this time.
I don't remember what you said as to why you didn't start with the sky this time.
Oh, that's too bad because neither do I. I said it was because I wanted to be sure, since this was such a bright color, I wanted to be sure that I didn't do anything back here, like use too much yellow or something.
Okay, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, make that not stand out like I wanted it to. Oh my gosh, everything's lighter than I think it is. Okay, I gotta find something that's dark here. Okay, maybe this is. Although that's not the right dark. Maybe this is. So, I don't know what I'm doing, and it's stressful when you don't know what you're doing. Like those, I almost said those stupid waterfalls that I was working on. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know right now what I'm doing. I'm just trying stuff. you know, maybe I have a better idea of what I'm doing than somebody who's never done it before. But I'm also like, don't want to be trapped into knowing how to do it. Because that's the thing, like that we talked about a little earlier about having a technique and stuff that's always evolving, is that, and that's the great thing about being a beginning painter, is that everything you do, you don't know what you're doing. And the longer you paint, the more tempting it is to paint what you know and not what you're seeing. So, yep, and you see it all the time where people just, they stop growing as artists.
Jeneane, there's something that you've advised many times that might help new people too, is when you're sort of stuck, or just periodically, whether you think you're stuck or not, just step back from the painting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was wondering if you've stepped back from that to see how gorgeous it is.
No, I haven't. One thing is I can see it on the screen. So that's kind
Okay.
of giving me some sense, because I can't actually see it very well where I'm working on it.
Okay.
Is it's to my side. Think how much better I've gotten from this whole setup since that first night where I was right in front of everybody all the time. Anyway, gotten better at this. And someone called me for advice on how to do a Zoom thing. I'm so excited. But yeah, stepping back is an awesome idea. I mean, it really makes all the difference in the world. And probably, like, you know, a lot of times for me is that I'm a bit afraid to step back. It's like, I know how bad it's gonna be. So I don't want to step back. But when you step back, so things in the beginning, I mean, maybe forever, a painting should look better when you're farther away from it than it does up close. That is not a bad thing. When your painting looks worse from a distance than it does up close, then you've got a serious problem. Because what it means is that the details have overrun the big shapes and that you don't have a strong thing going on anymore.
I think I need to paint in a bigger room.
Well, don't we all? But you can also have a mirror.
To
That's
step
kind of-
back far enough, squint and go back 100 yards.
Yeah, and you know, put up those little velvet ropes so nobody can get close.
That's right.
But if you put a mirror in your room, then you can just look in the mirror. That'll do a lot of the same thing for you. Because you see it in a really different way. What the heck are you doing, Jeneane? Okay, and when things don't go right, don't be afraid to try and undo what you did. It's not true, but I like it better, so I'm just doing it. Yeah, there's a lot of that right in here.
Oh my goodness.
That's cool.
Did Leslie leave? She did, didn't she? Not to like call out anyone, but
No,
she said no.
Jeneane, it's almost finished.
Oh, it is? Oh.
Yeah,